Okay, so pretty much I couldn't think of anything for this week, but then, my brain started thinking, I'm like, hey, why don't you talk about something, different from the time you've talked about animatronics? Like, those animatronic bands, mostly the Rockafire Explosion, when you talked about the Rockafire Explosion, saying that was better than the Chuck E. Cheese band, and, bringing up that friend of theirs from the UK, and the time Yogi Bear teamed up with them. Yeah. Well, today I've decided I'm going to talk about some bands that are virtual. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to do it. Because, come on, there's so many of them. And I'm sure there's some of you who find them nostalgic. For reals. This is pretty much the reason why I did it. Because, yeah, you know what? Half of these are pretty nostalgic to some people. Come on. I constantly hear people fangirl over some of these guys. Wow. Just wow. And why did I even decide to do this even afterwards? Well, I should probably, think about how I just started, randomly listening to the Chipmunk songs from the 80s and 90s, and maybe some of the ones from the 60s, because what the heck? I prefer the anime version of the Chipmunks better, even though I did do a video about them a while back, so I guess I did already do a video about one virtual band, but what the heck? I'll just mention a few things. So, first things first, I figured, what the heck? Now, of course, I think we should go back to the year 1958, where this whole virtual band thing all started with Alvin the Chipmunks, which is what it said according to the wiki, when they came to life, and they brought us, songs like The Witch Doctor and Christmas Don't Be Late. But I gotta say, the 50s and 60s were probably a great year for them, but honestly, I have to say the 80s were probably better, because let me tell ya, I went back and listened to some of those songs from the Chipmunk Adventure, because I was feeling a bit nostalgic, and I haven't heard those songs in a while, and I still remembered how they sounded, so I thought, yeah, I haven't heard these songs in a while, and I kind of miss them. I want to go listen to them again. And that's what I did. And then the next thing you know, it leads me to going to listen to other songs from that era. From when the TV show was airing. I'm like, these are great. I love these songs. Even though they're technically high-pitched covers of some popular songs from that time. But I don't care. But yeah, even after this, it's led me to creating my own, it led me to a little mix on my Spotify account where I added a playlist of some 80s songs. So yeah, I think I may be a little bit interested in 80s music, because I don't know, some of them are just too catchy in my opinion. But yeah, now, besides the Chipmunks, we all know we got the other ones. We got those silly Vocaloids from Japan, which, could I tell you something? My introduction to that was probably from watching the React channel, or as they were once called, the Fine Bros, when I saw kids and elders react to Vocaloids, and I'm like, okay, so this is a thing in Japan. I will say, interesting. For reals. Even though I'm not a big fan of anime, but what the heck? Having an animated character perform on stage in a live audience of real people, but what can you expect? Oh, wow. Now, but I'm like, although I don't think I would be too interested, because I'm not really that big into songs that you don't even understand, because they're not, because they sing in Japanese. No offense to that, though. I don't mind it, but I'm personally not a fan. I'll just stick to the regular, usual American pop. Thank you very much. But, yeah. And then, pretty much, I guess, ever since I guess Japan started doing this, other parts of the world started doing this as well. And I think you all know where this is going, because I'm pretty sure this is the reason why you clicked on this video. You're waiting for me to talk about this one specific group that everyone talks about. Like, even when it's brought up in conversation, people go crazy for it. Or if they're mentioned in a video or seen in a thumbnail, people are all like, oh yeah, I clicked because they were in there. I'm like, or, oh, I knew they were going to be in this video. I'm like, oh my God, wow. I'm like, oh my God, are they really this popular? And I think you already guessed who I'm talking about. Yep, that's right. Right. I'm talking about the famous English band from the UK, Gorillaz. Now, I have a bit of a confession to make. I didn't know who they were until I was like 15 or 16. Yeah, can you believe that? But I do have a few distinct memories of hearing their song "Feel Good Inc." on the radio as a child. Then again, I was a kid, and I never really bothered to learn who the artist or band was at that time. And even when it comes to other songs, I still don't. Like, pretty much whenever I get a song when I get a song from something I've heard stuck in my head, I'm like, okay, what was the name of that song called, and who sang it? Seriously, that's always so annoying to me, like, ugh. But anyways, I'm sure you all want to know where I even discovered them the first time. Well, let's just say I happily was looking through a playlist by Watch Mojo themselves. Yeah, I know. My introduction to them was from a Watch Mojo video. Can you believe me? Yes, I know. Watch Mojo's not that great, but honestly, I just watch them for their cartoon, top 10 list, or maybe sometimes other things. But yeah, so basically the video that I watched was called Top 10, Animated Music Groups. And they basically, got the #1 spot. And pretty much when I first saw this, I'm like, yeah, okay. So this random band I never even heard of gets #1. Okay. But then, I guess halfway through the video, they play that clip from their music video, Feel Good Inc., and I'm like, and as soon as I hear the song, I'm like, wait, I recognize that tune. So, wow. So, okay, maybe I do have one memory of them, but I didn't know who they were back then, because I was a kid. But yeah. And then pretty much after the video ended, I just scrolled through the comments and people were going all like, ooh, I knew Gorillaz was going to be #1. Like, ooh, I knew they were going to be #1. Like, and I tell you, I'm like, so they're that popular, huh? Wow. Just, wow. I don't even know what to say. But I mean, for reals. In fact, pretty much afterwards, I've had some instances where this happened. Like in another, top 10, animated musicians or musical artists or animated musical artists or whatever it was called. I found this one video by this guy I kind of watch, and pretty much, in the thumbnail it had their bassist Murdoch in there, and oh my God, the comments were like, I see Murdoch, and I click. I'm like, okay, I get it. He's from Gorillaz, but my God, do you have to get excited over everything? Like, seriously. Even when they're in the thumbnail, like, I mean, really. And then again, this isn't me hating on them or anything. I just think it's crazy that they're this popular. Like, people go crazy. Like, even when people see them, like, what the heck? Although I think there is one thing I bet you're all wondering, like, Sumner, how come you would, I understand you were a kid at the time, but how would you not know who they were when they happened to come out during the early 2000s? Guys, there's a little something you should know. They came out the year after I was born, like 2000, and they came out in 2001, from what I'm told, I think. Or then again, I do remember seeing someone mention that they were created in 1999. Although, I have to ask, if they came out in 2001, and I was born in 2000, does that make me older than them? Yeah, I think I know what you're all saying. Like, Sumner, they're cartoon characters. There's no way in heck they would be older. They would be older than you. Like, they'd be older than you. I mean, come on. Come on, they're cartoon characters. And they're like practically adults. Like, you know what? So true. Now, of course, there are also some other, famous, some famous other famous virtual bands. Like, I'm sure y'all have heard of the Archies, right? Originally from the Archie comic books, and pretty much got their own TV show back in the day. And somehow they played their song Sugar Sugar on the radio, which I found that pretty hard to believe. Like, what? A band of animated characters had their own song play on the radio? I'm like, and I know what you're all thinking. Like, Sumner, you heard Feel Good Inc. as a kid. How would you not know? Again, I didn't know who Gorillaz was at the time. I was 5 years old, or I would have been 4. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, okay, look. And yes, I do remember hearing the Chipmunks Christmas song on, around Christmas time as a kid too, whenever it played randomly on the radio. But again, that was before, in fact, way before those live action movies came out. And I became obsessed. But yeah. Besides that, there is also the banana splits from what I was told, because I remember, because they were mentioned in the Wikipedia article as well. And I'm sure you all know Jem and the Holograms from the 80s, which had a doll line by Hasbro. Although, would they count as a virtual band? And again, they were also mentioned in the Wikipedia, but I didn't really care. And then there's also, some other, famous virtual bands. And maybe some that actually had their own TV shows. I mean, like the Archies, like I mentioned before. There was also Josie and the Pussycats. And all those Hanna-Barbera, characters that were actually knockoffs of Scooby-Doo, but were actually bands. Although, I'm pretty sure I mentioned this before when I did that Scooby-Doo marathon for October. Did you guys know that the gang was originally going to be a band? Even though they actually just thought, yeah, we're not doing that. I'm afraid that's going to be too similar to the Archie show. You're like, yeah, you're right. Okay, then how come you ended up making other Hanna-Barbera clones and made them bands? Well, okay, I get it. I mean, some of them have different concepts. Like, I mean, there's one, there's that Jabberjaw one where it's under the sea. And there's also Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kids. And, just so many more you could name. And then, there's also those, there's also pretty much, I think, a lot of others you could just name at the top. You could name at the top of your head. That's not Gorillaz. I mean, I think that's the only thing everyone thinks about when they think virtual band. Gorillaz. Like, for reals. But yeah. So, I think that's all I got for today. So anyways, I'll see you guys next time. Take care.